This is the first time we're getting a hint about how the negotiations is going on between the ECOWAS envoy and the Nigerian military, led by Brigadier General Abdulrahman Chiani. The ECOWAS envoy is led by Nigeria's former military head of state, Abdulsalami Abubakar. He was the one that took over from Abacha and quickly convened a transition program that took 9 months to get back to democracy. That was in 1999. According to Abubakar, when he and his team arrived in Niger for the first time to negotiate with the military, they couldn't meet him. It was not out of negligence. He didn't want to ignore them. It was just because the atmosphere in Niger was too tense that even traveling on the road was difficult. So that was why they held a meeting at the airport without meeting Chiani himself. On the second meeting, before even the meeting could start, Chiani informed them that reinstating Bazoum was not on the table, that they are not even considering that at all, so they should remove that from the negotiations. Abubakar also urged Chiani to restore electricity to the apartment where the former president Bazoum was being held. Chiani quickly replied that he cannot do anything unless Nigeria restores electricity to Niger Republic. Yes, Nigeria quickly cut off electricity supply to Niger Republic as part of the ECOWAS sanctions. Niger Republic receives about 70% of their electricity supply from Nigeria. From the exchange, you get a picture of how the negotiation is going on between the ECOWAS envoy and the Nigerian military. But the most important takeaway from all this was when the ECOWAS envoy, Abubakar, was asked by the BBC correspondent what he thought was the main cause of military coups in Africa. Mr. Abubakar made these explosive revelations. Not that they weren't known already, but because it was a direct indictment on the leadership of ECOWAS, who are calling for the return to democracy in Niger Republic. You can't make this up. The reasons for military coups in Africa, according to Abubakar, can be placed in 2 main categories. Number 1, imposition of unpopular candidates into positions of power by all means necessary. And anyone who can do this, any president or an aspiring one who's supposed to do this, they will most likely be involved in vote buying and selling of votes. Because elections actually starts at the party level when they conduct their party primaries. So imagine the situation in Nigeria, for instance, where a money bag, as they call it, someone who can't explain where he got his money from, people that make money without enterprise, they come into a party, they bring with them millions or billions of naira, and they use that money to buy all the delegates. If a party is holding a party primaries to elect a presidential candidate, what these money bags do is they just bribe all the delegates. They know that it is the delegates that will cast their votes to determine the winner. So they just need to buy as many as they can. If there are 3,000 delegates in the election, they will just need to buy like 60% of that. On the day of the primary elections, they will just cast the vote for them, and that's the end. They will win the primary election and become the party's candidate in the presidential election. When a corrupt politician does this, it is effectively a political coup, because party primaries are supposed to be preceded by debates. All the aspirants in a particular election, whether it's governorship, presidential, all sorts of elections, they are supposed to be debating among each other. All the aspirants in a particular party, they all supposed to be moving around the country or their constituency, debating among themselves so that the party members can actually say, hey, this man is the better candidate than this one has a better opinion, this one supports this, supports that, just like it's happening in the United States today. The Republicans are already debating each other so that their party members who will vote in the primary elections can make a good choice, can say, hey, this man is better, this one supports this person aligns with my thoughts. You know, they will make a good decision and choose the right candidate who will face the opponent in the main presidential election. But here, they buy up the delegates with money. Most times they bribe them in dollars because the amount is quite huge. Paying such amount in naira, the local currency, will make it obvious that they are buying up the politicians, that they are bribing them. So according to Abubakar, this is one of the causes of military coups in Africa. This brings us to the second point he made, which are categorized under number 1. because anybody who participates in the imposition of an unpopular candidate on a party, the person is most likely to participate in the manipulation of the electoral process, in the buying of votes from electorates. Take, for instance, a president, his tenure is about to end. Instead of allowing the party to throw up the most popular candidate, allowing the aspirants to debate among themselves, making sure that at least all the aspirants must debate each other, that no one can avoid the debate, that avoiding the debate will amount to disqualification. So when all these kind of people participate in imposing an unpopular candidate, they are most likely to participate in manipulating the electoral process. That's the point. This is because they already know the unpopular candidate cannot win a free and fair election. So to make that person to win, they must manipulate the process. Yes, it's simple. Having spent a few millions of dollars to buy party delegates to emerge the winner of the primary election, why wouldn't they spend a few more millions to manipulate the elections, either buying the electorate or bribing the election officials, doing all sorts of things, even bribing the police who are supposed to supervise the election, who are supposed to make sure that there's no thuggery on election day, that people don't snatch ballot boxes, people don't do all sorts of things, people don't write results and say, hey, no other opposition member will enter the collation room, that only the party in power will be there while they are counting and manipulating the results. And the end of all this is that you can never get good governance from such people. When people spend millions of dollars to come to power, they buy their way to power. You expect them to care for you? They will never. It has become a business venture, and when an investor invests money, he will be looking forward to a return on his investment. When politicians steal money and use that money to buy their way to power and get to office, they will be more interested in recovering the money they invested with huge amounts of profit. So with all the corruption going on, it can still provoke a military coup. Now, let's see number 2. Politicians who find ways to amend their constitutions in order to accommodate a tenure elongation, which they themselves, while being in office, benefit from. It's already unlawful to make laws because of one man. Even Putin, when he finished his first 2 terms, he had to step down and allow Medvedev to be president before he came back. So Alassane Ouattara, the president of Cote d'Ivoire, who finished his 2 terms as president and still benefited from a 3rd term. Yes, right around his 2nd term, he manipulated the process to benefit from it. Let's even assume that Cote d'Ivoire lawmakers wanted to amend the constitution to accommodate a 3rd term without pressure from Alassane. Why did Alassane benefit from it? He's not the only one qualified to be president in Cote d'Ivoire. No one is indispensable. Why must it be him? Why not another person? If not him, what will happen in Cote d'Ivoire? Life will go on. So politicians who manipulate the process, amend the constitution to benefit from it, are the main causes of military coup. Look at what is happening in Gabon today. They had an election, they cut off internet. In fact, Omar Bongo, who won the election, or has it been declared? Their family has been in power since 1969. Can you imagine that? Now, let's come back to Abu Sami Abubakar's conclusion. He urged all politicians in Africa to always play by the rules of democracy. He also has some word for followers that they should not mortgage their future in the hands of politicians. That's talking about citizens. You don't follow politicians blindly. You don't just start campaigning for them. Just take money and try to convince people and sell your votes, that if everyone plays by the rules, that military coups in Africa will be a thing of the past. Yes, Abubakar is right. He also commands a lot of respect, being seen as the golden military man who willfully handed over power to a civilian government in 1999. You can understand why he is leading the ECOWAS envoy. But one wonders, did he tell all the ECOWAS leaders exactly what he told the BBC in the interview? Because the picture he painted exactly resembles Tinubu and Alassane. These 2 men are the loudest voices in ECOWAS calling for the return of Bazoum in Niger.
And today we have a similar situation in Niger. I'd like to say that ECOWAS cannot accept this.